always been very hard on myself, mainly because I'm a perfectionist, which I realized not too long ago. I've always relied my worth and my deserving of my own love onto how perfect I am. And to be honest, it sounds absurd now that I put it into words. But it's actually what my unconsciousness truly thought for a while. A year ago, I got sick, and I felt how my body was fighting to get over the sickness. And I don't know how to explain it, but it felt as if me and my body were two different things, like body and soul. And this also made me realize how amazing our body is. And I realized how stupid I am every time I tell myself I'm not worthy enough or I'm not worthy of deserving love, when we are all deserving of it just by being ourselves. So I'm glad that self love has been a trending topic on the internet, especially on social media with the self care routines or the empowering statements that are constantly being repeated. And these actions are okay and might help people to take self love as a more serious matter. But it becomes something to be worried about when it gets too romanticized and exclusively superficial. So, for this painting, I wanted to create a bouquet of flowers that represents what I think self love should be. And I gathered the meaning of the flowers from this beautiful book, which is called The Little Book of the Language of Flowers. And each flower represents a characteristic or a value that self love should have. So, in a way, it's kind of giving yourself a bouquet of flowers that represents the love you have for yourself. Each of the four flowers has a meaning. For example, the one that I was painting, it's a gladiolus that represents strength, pride, and strong love, which I think are three characteristics that self love should have. And the one that I'm painting right now, it's an iris, specifically a blue iris because it represents trust, like the one you should always have within yourself. So I didn't continue yesterday, but I'm liking it so far. I think it's coming out as I had it in my mind, and that is always very satisfying, I think, for any artist and for any type of art. But also, I'm thinking that this wall besides me is very blank and it's actually ugly. So I might as well hang some of my old artworks, and they are not framed yet, but I think they'll look pretty, or at least better than this ugly white blank wall. Self love is a different type of love compared to the one you feel for someone else, like your partner or your friends, maybe your family, really anyone else you love. Because even though it is still love, the main difference lies in the fact that it's the only type of love that works both ways. You give it and you also receive it. So you feel it in both ways, but also how much time it is present in your life. Because self love should be in your life for as long as you live. But self love isn't being in love with yourself. I think that would even be a little narcissist. But it is to accept and take care of yourself as you would for someone you love, or sometimes even more. Sometimes you need to put yourself first in order to be able to love other people or even to enjoy your life. The pink flower I painted on the left is a cyclamen, which is a Japanese flower that represents sincere and lasting love in the language of flowers. And the one I'm painting right now, it's a zinnia, which is very common but also very strong and beautiful, and it represents friendship, kindness, lasting affection, and memories, which I hope are present in your self love. I think you should love yourself more and more as you advance through the years and continue to discover who you are. Because self love should be unconditional. You should love all of your versions, not just your best version, but essentially who you are. At the end of the bouquet, I added a star, as if it was holding all of the flowers. And this star represents who we are, because we are all made of stardust. And the star also has a face, which represents identity. Because each one of us has a unique personality and a unique way of being that creates our identity. It was getting late, so the natural light started to go. So I went to the balcony and saw the sunset because the clouds were especially pretty today. So it's another day, and today I really want to focus on details using colored pencils. And this is one of my favorite parts because I feel it's when everything starts coming together. I don't know how to explain it. I just love it. It's like magic is happening. And I also want to do some details using white ink, and I'll cut the edges because I feel the rest is too blank, but also I'll paint a background, just a simple color background. It will be a light turquoise, and yeah, I hope it turns out as I'm expecting it. I really do, because I'm liking it so far. Also, I would like to mention that I would love to create a print out of this painting and sell it in my own store. But I currently don't have a store. I am working on it, but I would love to eventually have my paintings as prints. So maybe if you're seeing this in the future, my store has already been published and you can find my prints there. Because I do have some paintings I want to make as prints and create more paintings with a meaning behind them in the future. You are not perfect. And I say this because sometimes, especially if you're a perfectionist, I know it's very difficult to love yourself because you feel you only can do it until you're perfect. It's no secret that perfection does not exist, but we somehow completely ignore that fact. So it's hard to keep in mind that we aren't perfect and we will never be. So try to remind yourself that no matter how many of your expectations you meet or how many goals you achieve, you are deserving of loving yourself. Because by believing in you, you will grow. Believe me, there is no way you'll grow based on destructive critics. And maybe if you do achieve something with your harsh critics, I can almost guarantee that you would eventually develop the imposter syndrome. Every version of yourself is a part of you, since your child self to the one that is crying in bed, or maybe the one that's proud. But no one is a robot. You can make mistakes and eventually grow and learn out of them. This allows you to create your personality and be what makes you unique. And let me remind you that everyone fails, so don't be afraid of failure, because if you let that fear paralyze you, ironically, you have already failed by not trying nor starting. And something very important I learned this year is that you don't deserve anything but what you want and you think you deserve. And just by living and letting others live, you deserve to be happy being who you are.